This whole week that we're going into, you realize things about all of us and how busy our schedules are, and that it is so easy to take blessings for granted. So I want you just to get simple this week. Would you do that with me if you could? Just get simple with me. Begin to think of all the things that you have and actually verbalize them. You know, tell your loved ones, tell the ones that you're with, start to say things that you don't even, maybe normally you don't say it. They're going to say, uh-oh, this is weird. Why are they talking this way? They never give thanks. They never see the good things. What's going on here? Begin to do that, and you're going to see that even your very attitude and the way that you feel, it's going to change about everything. When you begin to start to think this way, and when you begin to express the very words that come out of your mouth, I think it's good every so often for us to evaluate how grateful we really are. Wouldn't it be a good thing if I could have a little test that I could hand out to all of you right now, and have you take the test, and have a list of questions, and I actually have a bunch of things that I've been going over, but I won't do that to you today. And it is a good test, and when you begin to read all these things, and you examine your life, and you look in the mirror and say, wow, I've got to evaluate this. And what I did, I had to look and see what kind of a score I got. And it made me come back to the simplicity of life and how much I really am thankful for. And we've got to ask the question, do the people around you really know how much, the people that you love around you, do they really know how much you appreciate them? I want you to think about that for a moment. Do your kids, if your mom and dad, if you're blessed enough to have your mom and dad still alive, if you have grandmothers and grandfathers, if you have aunts and uncles, people that you really love, you're going to be getting together with a lot of people this coming week. A lot of you are. You're going to sit, I know, you're going to sit at the table, you're going to have turkey, you're going to have all this, and you're going to bow your heads, and you're going to fold your hands, and everybody's going to say a prayer of grace over the meal. Well, I want to ask you, do you ever tell any of them how grateful you are for them? Do you ever take the time to actually look at them and say, man, you know, I'm just so thankful for what you do, Frank. I see it and I watch it, and you just encourage me. You're just always there, the ever-ready battery. I always know who I'm going to see. You never miss. You know, do we ever do that with the ones that we love, to actually express it and tell them? I want you to take that as a challenge this week for all of you to go, and the ones that you love and that are close to you, begin to tell them how much you appreciate them, and begin to express it in words, and maybe you might even do something for them. In an expression of, like we're going to do this Thursday, that's my expression to be here. And it was fun. Jeff and I were here, and thank you for that text, because it went great. I went down yesterday and I was able to get all the plumbing parts to hook up that double oven. And I brought them down, and it was so cool, because when I left, and in fact, I got to tell you this, the hot water heater went out next door, and I said, how can we have a Thanksgiving dinner with a kitchen over here with no hot water? So I had a hot water heater that was given to me back in Moreno Valley. A lady gave me that hot water heater. It must have been 6-7 years ago, and it's been sitting there this whole time, and I knew it was good. So yesterday morning I got up, I picked it up, I put it in the back of the van, I brought it up here. Jeff and I hooked it up, he hooked it up, turned it on, it worked. He hit the pilot light, the fire came on, so now we had that. I gave him the parts. I left about 3 o'clock. I get home, and he sends me a text. He sends me a beautiful picture of all the piping hooked up. And I said, Jeff, that was just too fast. That was so quick. And so I did all that because I felt so blessed to be able to, I'm getting the parts, and I'm saying, God, this is so cool. You gave me the mind to sit here. You should have seen me on the floor there at Home Depot. I probably looked weird, but I was building this thing in my mind. So I had taken this, and I laid out from where I was going to tap into the gas. I laid the first piece of pipe, I put the elbows, then I put the long piece of pipe, I laid it all on the floor. And then I put the gas, the flex, and then I ran down another piece of flex, I put the valve, and I laid it all out. I said, that's it. And if you could have seen me on my knees, and I was saying, God, this is so cool that you gave me the mind to do this so I can go back and get us ready over there on Thursday. You might not think it's a big thing, but for me it's huge, because God's letting me use my talent to give thanks to Him, to actually show my thankfulness to Him by serving other people and feeding them next week. You're going to see amazing things this Thursday. If you show up over there, you're going to see people like we did last week, or last year, they cried. One of them came up to me and said, I can't believe that you would do this. For us. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, we just cooked turkey and did some potatoes. This is so easy for us. And they thought it was so huge. Yes. So we can take that. It doesn't just have to be at Thanksgiving, does it? There's so many of you that have talents that have offered to do things in this neighborhood that have just thrilled me, and I can't wait until we can actually put it into action. Yeah. I feel like sometimes, God, you've given me so many people that want to do things, but it's me, it seems like it's holding all this up, and please help me to put all this stuff in action. Yes. We've got people here that want to do so many things, it would take me a while to tell you what they've offered to do. Free! Just to bless other people because of God, how He's blessed them. Yes. And so for me, I can't wait to be able to get all those things in action, because I'm going to be sitting back and just smiling and crying and laughing, saying, God, look what's in the house. Look what we have to be able to give to others. You will bless us, even though it looks like to the world we don't have anything, we have everything. And when you put us all together, we become powerful. We can do so much more than you could ever even realize by all of us just beginning to have this attitude of gratitude. Amen. Just to be thankful. How simple is that, to be thankful? So remember that you feel what you dwell upon. Whatever you dwell upon, that's the way you're going to feel. I know that we don't like to talk about spiritual things as being a feeling, but I've got to tell you, when you think about the same thing, I always talk about that stinking thinking. When you have that kind of thinking all the time, you dwell on it, and then you act it out, and you live it out. You look like it in your face shows it, your words show it, and then you're not as quick to want to take and give what God has given you. So when I was reading this, I started to actually write some things out as I was taking, some people call me a philosophical person, but I'm not. I just like to think things out in reality of how life really is. And here's what I was writing. When we think about what is absent in our lives, it is easy to forget about what is present. Yeah. Isn't it? We start to think about what's missing, and we build such a case around that we actually forget what is present. What do we have? Like the man that had the money belt, $23,000, and he had it present, and he wasn't using it. He didn't even realize what he had. And I began to think about when we first get married. You know, you're dating, and then you get married, and you're thinking, oh, thank God for this knight in shining armor. God, you sent me this man. He's just amazing. And oh, God, we were meant for each other. And then as the years roll on, you say, man, because I've been counseling hundreds of people over the years. This guy leaves his socks on the floor. He never puts his underwear in the basket. He leaves toothpaste all over the sink every time he's driving me crazy. And so you forget the things that brought you together, and you don't realize what you got, that he's a man that comes home every night. He's a man that goes to work every day. And you forget about those things, and you begin to build this case on this stuff that just drives you crazy. And then you have this woman that you meet, and you say, oh, God, it's a princess you've given me. Life is so wonderful. Have you ever seen for the first year the expressions on these new married couples' faces? I mean, they walk in and they're sitting together. I see them in restaurants. I can tell who's fresh. They got their hands, they're holding hands, and they're just smiling, and they're just, oh, I love you, baby, like this. You know, and then one of them gets up to go back just to get a drink for him, and says, oh, I missed you while you were gone. And then as the years go on, then they began to pick out these little quirks, and the woman drives him crazy. Oh, you heard the way that she laughs, Pastor. It just drives me crazy. You got to come live with my wife because, not Karen, but she spends way too much. It scares me to go to anywhere with her anymore, because we go in and she buys everything in the store and she talks me into it, and then I got to pay the credit card bill. She's driving me this princess that God gave him. It was so wonderful. He does not realize what he has, that he's got her. There's so much there. There's so much to be thankful for. And he begins to focus, or she begins to focus on all those little things that they don't matter anyway in the long run, do they? No. Because you've got each other. So I want you to cherish the ones that you have. Start taking all of that nonsense and put it out in the garbage can, close it, let the garbage company come and take it far away to the dump, and never bring it up again, and begin to capitalize and focus on what you do have. Amen. Can you find something that you do have? Yes. We can all find something that we do have, and I'm so thankful to God when we realize what a blessing it is, everything that we have. I thought about these parents, and please, I'm not talking about you today, but you have said things to me like, you know, there are sometimes when I wish I had never had this kid. I really do. I wish they had never been born. This is what people say to me. And so I try to real graciously and lovingly say, wait a minute. Do you realize that that kid hasn't been sick a day in their life? They don't have cancer. They're not sitting up in Loma Linda right now. They are alive. They are healthy. They may be a problem, but they're a gift from God that God has given you. So why are you doing this and taking and wanting to sometimes get so impatient and so troubled with your kids that you want to divorce them and throw them away? God never intended to think about the blessings you do have with them and never give up on them. As long as they're alive, there's a chance that God can take them and can bring them back, and so you need to think like God thinks. Amen. And so I'm so thankful that I have my kids. And have your kids frustrated you? Don't raise your hand. Have your grandkids, but think about the things that you do have. That's what my wife and I do all the time. We have struggles all the time with all kinds of things, and we say, okay, but wait a minute. We bring each other back. We say, let's bring this back. Let's bring this back. What do we do have? And by the time we get done with the conversation, we both look, hey, we feel better. She says, I feel better now. So I feel better too. Because we were going way out there in the negative, and it wasn't accomplishing anything. And look what we did. Now we have a complete different attitude. We're thankful for what we do have, and we know that God is going to do something. He's going to do something. Because when you give thanks before you pray, you say, God, I'm getting ready to ask. There's some petitions on my heart. I'm getting ready to pray. But God, first I want to thank you. Yes. I want to thank you, God, for what I do have. Yes. And you go down the list, and all of a sudden it just changes your whole prayer life. You begin to speak differently to God. You begin to get intimacy with God. And then He takes that you've given Him thanks, and that's praise, and that's worship, and that is giving thanks, and that's a form of prayer, so that everything changes. The whole environment changes that you're living in. Oh, yeah. Thankfulness. Being thankful. I was reading this Harry Ward Beecher, and it was a quote. A proud man is seldom a grateful man, for he never thinks he gets as much as he deserves. And I was looking at this scripturally, and I want you to look at Philippians. I'm going to give you a couple of scriptures here, and then we've got something wonderful that's going to take place. We've got somebody that's going to be life application that when I finish here, they're going to get up and they're going to tell you some things that they're grateful for. Real life application. I love hearing from people. I love to be able to have people come and share and encourage and share from what God has done in their life. I want you to look at this passage with me in Philippians chapter 4, verses 10 through 13. And it's thanks for their gifts. So he says, I rejoice greatly. This is the Apostle Paul talking. He says, I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things through Him who gives me strength. So when we begin to look at Philippians chapter 4:13, I can do all things through who? Who gives me strength. So I want you to go back, Tracy, to that last slide, and I want you to see something here that really has stuck out to me, and it really hit me again this week, that what we've been talking about now for 3 weeks is something that you think on these things. And we talked about Romans chapter 12 too. Remember that no longer conform anymore to the world's way of thinking, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So I want you to look at that and connect that with what Paul is saying here. I want you to see here what he's saying about, here's 11. Look at verse 11. I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have, say that with me, learned. You see the connection there? That his mind had been renewed, so he is teaching us to think on these things. So we retrain our minds, and we actually learn how to be grateful. Because in context here, what was happening is these people in Ephesians, they were trying to give something to Paul. They wanted to give him a gift. For some reason, it had been delayed. So it wasn't the fault of the people in Ephesus. The church, they wanted to give to Paul. And Paul's saying here, he said, look, it's not that I didn't appreciate what you were trying to do. It wasn't that at all. It was just that I've learned something. I've learned that my dependency is not on the church sending me money. That's not where my dependency is. My dependency comes from above. It comes from my Father. It comes from Jesus. That's why when you look at the scripture, you may look at it differently after today. That's why he was able to say in 13 that I can do all things. He wasn't saying, well, I can do it if you guys send me the money. You know, if I depend on you, then I'm going to think about what I don't have. And it's really huge when you look at this text here, because he's saying, look, it's not that I didn't appreciate that you guys were trying to send this money to me. I appreciate it. I genuinely appreciate it. But it didn't make it to me, so I'm okay. Because I've learned something. I've learned to be content. I've learned to see what I do have. Paul was saying, I know that this gift was coming, but look, I got enough right here. I got enough right here. I got enough to make it. Whatever God has asked me to do, I can do all things. There's nothing I can't do because it's Christ who strengthens me. It's not my circumstances that strengthen me. And I have something here to shout about. I got something to go out into the neighborhood and say, glory be to God. I may not be driving a Rolls Royce. I may not be living on top of the hill. But I tell you what I got is powerful. It's something that is out of this world. It does not matter what circumstances say or they do to me because I'm not dependent on them. And so that's what was so powerful about what Paul was saying here. This will apply to every area in life. And go again to the next slide. He says, look, I know what it is to be in need. So this is what's so awesome. You guys aren't saying that, okay, everything's great. He's saying, look, I know what it's like. I will be living in reality. I'm not going to tell you something that's not reality. I know what it's like. This guy didn't eat sometimes. He was down in the lower dungeon. He didn't have the proper clothes. He would even ask for a blanket to be brought to him. It was cold. It was miserable. He was treated like a third-class citizen, even though he was a Roman citizen, even though he was a Jew, he was a Pharisee. But here he comes to a point in his life, I know what it's like to be in need. And I know what it's like to have plenty. He knew both sides of it. But he did not let that change his dependency. Right. So that when he had plenty, his dependency was still on God. When he had plenty, he would say, oh God, thank you for the overflow. Thank you for the blessings. I got more than I need right now, so I'm going to pour it out on everybody that I can. God, as long as I live, I'm going to pour it out. Yes. Can you imagine if we got a group of people that had that in their hearts and said, whatever I have extra, I'm going to pour it out. So now you understand what happened in the early church, that it said that they no longer, it said they had everything in common. They no longer looked just to their own needs. When some guy would sell a piece of property, he said, I got what I need right here. I don't need to put the money away and stack it up for some rainy day because God will take care of me. He'll give me an umbrella if it rains. He'll give me everything I need. So they would take that money. It's crazy in the society today, our Western culture. It's crazy to think this way, that you would sell a piece of land, say, God, you've given me so much. I'm going to take all the proceeds from that land and I'm going to put it right here at the apostles' feet. And they're going to take it and distribute it to all the people that are in need. That's the craziest way you would think in America. How many people you know that would sell an extra car that they got and say, I'm just going to take this money and I'm going to give it to God? But you know, the way we think in reality is, oh man, I can sell that car for $3,500. I got a list of stuff I've been wanting to buy up here. I got that big screen. My screen is only a 60-inch. I need a 72-inch. And you know, you start to work that out in your mind, and before you realize it, you have already justified all of that money is yours. Look, I'm entitled to it. It's mine. I worked hard for it. It's mine, and I'm going to spend it on myself. So the way that Paul is teaching us this here today, and the whole idea of this Thanksgiving week, is it's a different mindset, isn't it? Doesn't matter how much you have, doesn't matter how little you have something that you can give to God. So now I am hoping that this Thanksgiving weekend, you might have already been thinking this way, but I'm hoping that you will realize that be thankful for what you have. Just give glory. I mean, we should just have times of shout. I wish we could have like the old days, and not to go back, but just to have a time where we could take just raucous, heavenly noise of a whole group of people spontaneously just praising God, and not do it for show, not do it because you want somebody to see you or you got the loudest voice, but because you are the most thankful person on the face of the earth, and it's just coming from deep, just coming up, and you're just shouting glory and praise to God. Like that lady last week that I told you over there at Sam's Club, I think that's